Dr. Val Curtis is the Director of Hygiene at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. She's an anthropologist, she's an engineer, she's a behavioural scientist, if you like. Val, you've done a lot of studies and a lot of work on hand washing. I mean, part of the Millennium Development Goals Committee on Hygiene. You wrote a paper called Hand Washing Can Save 1 Million Lives some years ago. Just explain that concept to us. How?
Okay. Well, it's not terribly well appreciated that diarrheal diseases are the biggest killer of kids globally around the world. In fact, diarrhea kills more kids than malaria, measles and HIV combined. Yet it's a subject we don't like to talk about.
Right.
So what we did was we looked at all the studies that are out there to try and find the effect of hand washing with soap on diarrheal diseases. And we were really surprised to see that if you put the studies all together, it's got a really enormous impact. Something like a half of all diarrheal diseases could be prevented if people wash their hands with soap. But of course, not everybody does wash their hands with soap.
If, or just as you say. And it's not just diarrheal, it's respiratory diseases too, isn't it?
Indeed. So having checked that literature out, we had a look at other infections, and we found there were many infections that could be prevented by hand washing with soap. Respiratory infections, probably the most important of all, apart from diarrhea, perhaps reduce them by something like a third. Wow. So things like colds and flu and pneumonia, which is actually lethal to many children in developing countries. And
you put both of those together and there really is, you are saving 1 million lives, if not more in fact.
Yes, quite possibly.
Do you think those statistics or the hand washing, the effects of hand washing are only valid in a developing country? Hand
washing is the prime way of preventing the bugs that, say for example, you have a bug, you're sick with it, I'm not. You come into contact with me some way, or maybe you touch a surface. Sure. Maybe you haven't washed your hands after the loo, for example. Maybe you prepare some food and give it to me. The bugs that are in you hop a lift on your hands onto other surfaces and directly to me.
And would that be more prevalent in developing countries? In other words, transmission. In other words,
so in Africa, 65% of people die from infections, whereas in European and American countries, it's more like 5%. So the difference between that is actually pretty scandalous. It shows how many lives shouldn't be there shouldn't be so many deaths in developing countries. We should all be at a rate of 5% deaths from infectious diseases. So sure, yes, it's partly about the environment, it's partly about not having the resources to have clean water, to have sanitation, for example. But actually, hand washing with soap is something that everybody can do, whether you're rich or poor, whether you've got facilities or not. Hand washing with soap is cheap and easy and simple.
So, Val, we know that. We know it works. We know hand washing can save lives. Why don't we do it?
Well, you know, I hate to say it, Dr. Mole, but not all, even doctors who know how important hand washing is, don't wash their hands with soap. Not all the time, anyway. Not as often as they should. So even though the vast majority of people in all of the different countries we've worked in know that they should be washing their hands with soap, they aren't doing it. Why? Well, if you haven't been taught it as a child so that it becomes an automatic habit that you don't even have to think about, then you're much less likely to be a hand washer. And also, it's important that you feel that everyone else around you is doing it, because humans are very groupish and we love to do what everyone else is doing. So if you feel everyone else is doing it, then you'll do it. But if you don't think other people are doing it, then you won't do it. So if we want to get people washing hands with soap, we've got to make it a norm. We've got to make it something that everybody does. We've got to remind people how disgusting it is when they don't wash their hands. And we've got to get kids, mums and kids working to families, or whole families working together to support each other in remembering to wash hands with soap, to get it into their daily routines so it's never forgotten.
Yeah. That's what it's going to take to change herd mentality.
It is.
But at the risk of becoming obsessive-compulsive about washing my hands all the time, give us some guidelines. How often should we be washing on a daily basis, and when?
No, I mean, the world is full of germs, and most of the germs that are out there aren't damaging for you, so you don't need to get really obsessive about it. We've got to be sensible. So clearly, after you've been to the toilet, that's the point at which you can get billions of germs from your gut onto your hands and give them to other people. So after the toilet, wash hands with soap, always, without any excuses. And secondly, when you're preparing food or serving food, so if I give my child a piece of food and I haven't washed my hands, I'm feeding poo to my child, effectively. So those are sort of like 5 times a day. After the toilet, 3 times before each meal, and we of course need to bathe as well every day. So I'd say like 5 times a day.
Brilliant. Like that. Thank you, Val, for those frank insights. It's amazing that something as simple as just washing your hands regularly can really save lives.
New Lifebuoy Clinic Air 10. 10 times better germ protection, 10 times more skincare.